everybody. It is so beautiful today to be in the presence of the Lord. I believe that He has a great word for us today. While I was taking communion, I was really nervous about coming up here because I just wanted to speak what was really on God's heart. And my hands were shaking, and I spilled a bunch of communion juice all over. But you know what? This is me. I've been sprinkled with the blood of the Lamb. I've been cleansed, and He has protected me. He has anointed me. So know that we're all good and that He is here and He loves us. Today I want to talk about love and the love that God has for us as we are His church. And actually, how much time? Okay, that's good. I'm going to start out. Actually, how many of you guys have ever read Shakespeare or even heard of Shakespeare? I actually wanted to read a section and talk about this one of Shakespeare's plays called The Taming of the Shrew. If you don't know what a shrew is a bad-tempered or aggressively assertive woman. So you can just imagine someone, and if someone is shrewish, it could be anybody. It doesn't just have to be a woman. Anyone who's just aggressive and bad tempered, something is just hurting them, and they're expressing it with just a disdain for other people. It's like no matter what you say, they argue with it or are contrary to it. That is a shrew. Okay. Now this book or this play by Shakespeare, The Taming of the Shrew, is about this man, this kind of a gentleman. He comes and he discovers this wealthy daughter of another gentleman, and she's very beautiful, but she is a shrew. Just everything she does is in hatred and disgust for everyone. Okay, but this man, his name is Petruchio. Okay, try to follow me. I'll try to keep this brief. I don't want to go into the whole thing for you. But he decides, I'm going to marry this shrew. I am going to marry her. I don't care what she says. I don't care what she does. I am going to marry her. This is kind of a dead set. Before he even meets her, he says, I'm going to marry this woman. So he sets out just pursuing her, wooing her, which didn't last very long. But she's so rough and disdainful to him. The first meeting they have, they're just arguing back and forth. She's giving all these cutting remarks, and he's just taking it like a man. And he ends up giving kind words back to her. Like everything she says, he just starts speaking kind words to her. Shakespeare's kind of hard to follow because the language was a bit different at the time. But I'm going to read just a line that Petruchio said to the shrew, or a couple sentences, in response to some cutting remarks that she made. And you see how kind and gentle they are. If you don't understand everything, it's okay. But you can hear how he's just treating her with love and compassion, and saying all these good things to her when it doesn't make sense. If someone comes up to you and starts swearing at you and arguing with you, this is the weirdest way to respond. Petruchio says, and the name of the shrew is Catherine, or Katharina in Italian. I find you passing gentle. 'Twas told me you are rough and coy and sullen, and now I find report a very liar. For thou art pleasant, gamesome, passing courteous, but gentle in speech, sweet as springtime flowers. Thou canst not frown, thou canst not look askance, nor bite the lip as angry wenches will. Nor hast thou pleasure to cross and talk, but thou with mildness entertainest thy wooers, with gentle conference, soft and affable. Why does the world report that Kate doth limp? O slanderous world, Kate like the hazel twig is straight and slender, and as brown in hue as hazelnuts and sweeter than the kernels. Oh, let me see thee walk, thou dost not halt. So he's giving her these most ridiculous compliments, things that I would want to say. I go to Shakespeare if you want to be romantic. This is the last person that you would expect him to say this to. And he just keeps doing this. And he's being rough with her. He's trying to, not with his hands, but with he's like pretty much forcing a marriage on her. She doesn't really get a say in it. And he knows that she's shrewish, that she's going to resist everything that anybody ever does to her. So he just comes and says, I'm going to marry this woman. I'm going to talk to her this way. And what he does, I'll give you a quick insight into the play. He ends up marrying her, takes her to his home, and it's just in his words just keeps treating her with love, but at the same time he's like acting like this ridiculous, fiendish man who's yelling at all his servants, flipping tables, and he won't let her have anything that she wants. And he does it all in the disguise of trying to be polite. It's very, very backwards, but you see what he's doing. He's taming her. He's doing something in order to make her learn to be submissive. And so she's just like, a servant like brings her some food, and it's probably like the best meal you've ever seen. And Petruchio just walks up and is like, "Servant, what is this? This is dog food." And he like throws it away. And the whole time she's not getting to eat. She's not getting to sleep. She's always in fear of what's going to happen to her. And she's scared to death of this man because he won't let her have anything. And she's like, he's with his words, he keeps saying all these kind of things, but he's treating me like the opposite and he's pretty much countering her shrew-like behavior. He's pretty much one-upping her in all the evil things that she wants to do to people. He's kind of doing the same thing to her, but it doesn't make sense because he's pretending like he's doing the right thing. And as you go through the play, she just gets broken and beaten down. It's just blow after blow coming to her heart of, I'm so scared, I'm not getting to sleep, I'm not getting to eat. This man is crazy. He's yelling at all his servants. He's talking to me like I'm his beloved wife. And I don't know what's going on. And she's scared and confused. And eventually gets to a point where she realized that the only way that anything is going to work out is she just does what he says. If she stops being a shrew and just starts listening to him, if he says the most ridiculous thing, just do it, even if it's stupid. There's one point in the play where he walks up to his old man and starts talking to her, saying that he's a fair maiden, and so the shrew, Catherine, comes up and does the same thing. This old guy is just standing there, but she's obeying what her husband is saying, and just ridiculous things like throwing her hat like on the ground and trampling it out, even though it's beautiful, just because he told her to. And she eventually starts to realize, like, I'm not going to get fed, I'm not going to get anything unless I obey my husband. Even if what he's telling me is ridiculous, even if he's acting ridiculous, I just got to do what he says. And by the end of the play, she finally learns to just listen, to just trust him. Even she's been broken down. That's why it's called the taming of the shrew, because Petruchio goes in and he tames the shrew. He has to be rough. He has to be smart. He has to break her down, and I think he did it out of love. There's different ways you can interpret it. And one of the ways that he was really doing it out of love for her, because he knew she was miserable in these circumstances in her heart. So he works against her heart and breaks her down until she appreciates what he can give her, till she appreciates the things that are around her. By the end of the play, and so it's so amazing what he's doing. He's like wooing her, and he's being so smart, and I believe he's so full of love for her, but he's expressing it in a way in order to break her for her own sake. Not because he wanted to be cruel, not because he wanted to abuse her, but so that she could learn to appreciate things. I want to read, and then I'll get into what I'm talking about. I want to read at the very end of the play, all the husbands are sitting around, and he actually wants to brag on his wife, and everyone else is making fun of him. It's like, you married the shrew, like she's not going to listen to anything you say. And the crazy thing is what happens, the other two husbands call their wives and they don't come. But when he calls Catherine, she comes immediately because she's learned to just listen to what he says. And she talks to the two other wives. She gives this huge speech about how they ought to respect their husbands, how it's ugly to be disobedient. And I'm just going to read a little bit of what she says and just listen to the words that she talks about her husband as compared to the way that she was before. And she's talking to the other wives, telling them not to be so ugly. She says, Fie, and knit that threatening, unkind brow, and dart not scornful glances from those eyes, to wound thy lord, thy king, thy governor. She's talking about their husbands. It blots thy beauty as frost do bite the meads, confounds thy fame as whirlwinds shake fair buds. So she's saying, it's ugly for you to treat them with contempt. And in no sense is meet or amiable. A woman moved or a woman angry. is like a fountain troubled, muddy, ill-seeming, thick, bereft of beauty. And while it is so, none so dry or thirsty will deign to sip or touch one drop of it. Thy husband is thy Lord, thy life, thy keeper, thy head, thy sovereign, one that cares for thee, and for thy maintenance commits his body to painful labor, both sea and land. So your husband cares for you. Yes, he's in charge of you. He keeps you, but he works for you. He sacrifices for you. I'm paraphrasing. And then he took, okay, whilst thou liest warm at home, secure and safe, and craves no other tribute at thy hands, but love, fair looks, and true obedience. He only wants you to love him and obey him. Too little payment for such great a debt. Such duty the subject owes the prince. Even such a woman oweth to her husband. And when she is froward, peevish, sullen, sour, and not obedient to his honest will, what is she but a foul, contending rebel and graceless traitor to a loving Lord? I am ashamed that women are so foolish, to offer war where they should kneel for peace, or seek for rule, supremacy, and sway. So he's saying it is ugly for women to try to take control of their husbands. And by the end of the play, she just completely changed because of what he did in her life. And it doesn't really say after, but I think that they ended up being happy together because she learned to obey. And I think that instead of being ridiculous with her from now on, he was going to treat her the right way. You'll see why I started out with Shakespeare in a while. I'm going to leave that for now. You'll be like, Andrew, what are you thinking? But I just want to talk about this picture, thinking about how this husband is treating his wife, and her description of what a husband is. He keeps you. He's your Lord, your master. He takes care of you. He sacrifices for you. It makes me think of Jesus. Jesus is the groom of the church, his bride. If you look in Ephesians 6, it talks about marriage. Husbands, love your wives. Wives, submit to your husband. He says, I am talking about Christ and the church. It is a mystery. And I just want to say that the Lord really feels that way about us. He loves us like a husband. We are his church, his body, his bride. We are something special to him. And just looking at, just thinking about the fact that Jesus is the husband to us, to his church, we have to start thinking that way. Sometimes when the Lord asks us to do things, we can be shrewish. We can be bad-tempered. We can be assertive. If the Lord, we know commands from him, or we know we're supposed to love, or he leads us to do something, we get all angry and upset and say, no, I don't want to follow you. Even if we are Christians, there's times of rebellion. No, I want to go my own way. I want to do what I want. And we have this attitude where we just don't want to do anything that the Lord says or leads us to do. But the thing we need to realize is that's ugly. It is wretched. In the Bible, Peter and Paul, they talk about wives to submit to their husbands, not for them to rule over you and lord over you, but because that's the way we were made. It's so beautiful when a wife submits to her husband. They're able to that's the way they were made. They expresses a beauty, a gentle and quiet spirit. It is the most beautiful thing for no other reason other than that's just the way God made them. And because of that, the husband is supposed to take care of the wife. The husband is supposed to love her. She entrusts herself to the husband. And a lot of times, and we need to think about that between us and the Lord. He just wants to take care of us. He just wants to love us, but we have to trust him. Will we submit to him? Will we listen to him? There's a lot of times, because of our rebellious hearts, this is our whole lives, we need to be tamed. Just like a shrew. We do love the Lord, but there's things in us that we need to realize we're not able to get rid of unless Jesus does some taming of us, putting us in hard situations. A lot of us go through stuff. A lot of us go through real serious suffering. And we wonder, what is the reason for this? Why is this happening to me? Why do I have to go through this? And sometimes there is no good reason. Sometimes it's just someone has really wronged you, or sometimes there's just bad things happening. Sometimes the enemy really is attacking you. But I want to tell you guys that sometimes the Lord lets us go through stuff because he wants to discipline us. He wants us to go through things so that we can because it purifies our hearts. We learn to obey. Peter says that when we go through suffering, we're done with sin in our body. We don't want to, we live for the will of God. I want to talk about Jesus. And I really believe that he is calling to us, that Jesus really is the bridegroom of the church, of us. He loves us with an unfathomable love. All of our lives, he's calling out to us and working in our lives to woo us closer to him. I'm going to flip to John chapter 10, and I'm just going to read a short verse from it to talk about Jesus and his love for us. Jesus, in John chapter 10, he's talking about the sheep and the shepherd. You've all heard it. There's a flock of sheep, which represents us, and there are people who are trying to come into the gate, into the pen, and they're trying to lead these sheep astray. He says, anyone who comes into the gate or comes into the pen not through the gate is a thief and a robber. There are people who have tried to come in and lead us away from the Lord. And then he's talking about, but there's the man who comes in by the gate is the shepherd of a sheep. There's a watchman there too. He's saying this shepherd leads his sheep. I want you to look at verse 7. Therefore Jesus said again, I tell you the truth, I am the gate for the sheep. And this is what I want you to hear. All who ever came before me were thieves and robbers, but the sheep did not listen to me. And look down to verse 12. Actually, verse 11. Jesus says, I am the good shepherd. The good shepherd lays down his life for the sheep. The hired hand is not the shepherd who owns the sheep. So when he sees the wolf coming, he abandons the sheep and runs away. Then the wolf attacks the flock and scatters it. The man runs away because he is a hired hand and cares nothing for the sheep. I am the good shepherd. I know my sheep and my sheep know me. Just as the Father knows me and I know the Father, and I lay down my life for the sheep. Jesus says, there's all these people who have come and they've tried to take care of you. They've tried to look over you. But they are not the true shepherd. They will leave you. They have left you into the face of fear. He says, I am the true shepherd. I am different. Jesus says, I am different from all these other people who have been in your life, who have tried to love you. People do really love, but we all have weaknesses. Jesus says, there's something different about me. I am the one who will never leave you. You have something with me that you have with no one else. I know you and you know me. Just as the Father knows me and I know the Father. There's an intimacy there between the sheep and the shepherd. Something that is unlike anyone else. And I want to say this one thing about the shepherd, how he's different from anyone else in your life. Jesus says, and I lay down my life for the sheep. I'm going to tell you something about Jesus. He gave his life for us before any of us cared about him, before any of us loved him, before any of us knew him. While we were still dead in our sins, God gave his Son. While we were still dead and rebellious, while we were still shrew-like, wanting nothing to do with God, Jesus laid down his life for us. And a lot of times we look at it, but we don't grasp what this really means. I want to say by his death and resurrection, Jesus has put on this show throughout all human history of what I've done. Look what I've done. It's been this huge endeavor, one of the greatest act that history has ever known, Jesus has done. And I want to say it was for one reason. It was to display his love for you. Think of Jesus as a husband. Think of Jesus as the bridegroom. He is beckoning to us by his death and resurrection, calling out to us by his love. Jesus didn't care whether you loved him first. Jesus didn't care what you did for him. It had nothing to do with what you did for him. He chose to love you. He chose to marry you before you even had a say in the matter. And I'm talking about the church as a whole. Jesus wants us to love him. And he's displayed his love for us before we even knew him, before we even cared. He has called out to us first. It's just like he's saying, look what I've done for you. You can't ignore what Jesus has done. Now, Jesus has done all this for us, proclaiming his love. He wants us, but will we follow? We don't have to respond to him. Will we follow? I just want to talk about what the Lord is doing in our lives, what he's doing in our hearts, that he really does care about you. In fact, God has such a great delight and beauty and wonder in store for you. He wants to give you everything. He wants to give you the world. He wants to give you your inheritance. He wants to touch your life in a powerful way. God wants to give everything to you. In fact, he has already given everything for you. Paul says, if he who did not withhold his son from us, will he not, along with him, give us all things? But we have to listen to him. Will we respond? I really think that God is calling out to this church and he's saying, I loved you. Look what I have done for you. I want to know you, but will you come to me? Will you pursue me? Will you look to me? We have to trust him. God, a lot of times when we go through those things and he's taming us, it's not fun. But if we learn to submit to him and obey him, everything works out. Amen. Remember I was saying about when Catherine finally learned to submit to her husband, she started changing. She started recognizing, by the end of the play, she really appreciated him. And I just want to say that we as the church, we have to submit to the Lord. As the church, submit to him as our husband. It is ugly when we respond in disobedience. It's ugly when we resist him. It's ugly when we say no to him. But he still loves us. In fact, he loves us so much that he will put us through suffering in order to make us beautiful. Jesus said, or Paul said, that actually, turn to Ephesians chapter 5, or you don't have to, I'll just read it. But it says, husbands, love your wives, verse 25, love your wives just as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her, to make her holy, cleansing her by the washing with water through the word, and to present her to himself as a radiant church, without stain or wrinkle or any other blemish, but holy and blameless. Jesus wants us to be holy. He wants us to be beautiful. He wants us to be made right. In fact, what he has prepared for us, a love so great and so powerful that we won't be able to handle it. In fact, he wants us to be ready for it. He could. This is just in the same way with marriage and relationships. Jesus could unload all the love he has for us all in one moment, and we would crumble before it. It would be so powerful. It would overwhelm us. But that's not the depth of love. That's not mature love. If any of us or man truly wants a real depth of love in a relationship, looking at his wife or girlfriend or whatever, he may have a whole lot of love for her and may decide to get married and just go through the whole in one day. But there's no relationship that's built up, especially if that woman has some hard issues or she's really just doing it out of selfish motives or really just, who knows what. Love has to build up and become mature. Jesus could give us all his love right now and make us aware of it. But we're not ready for it. We're not mature enough. He wants us to love him back. It's like a real, actual marriage. It's what marriage represents, is the coming together of Christ and his church. He wants us to be able to love him back and experience that glory. The love that God the Father and God the Son and the Holy Spirit have together is so amazing that he wanted to share it with us. But because of the things in our lives, he wants to get rid of it. But here's the good thing. God knows what he's doing. Yeah. He's going to get rid of the stuff that's in your heart. It's not up to you. You just have to submit. What does it say? Wives, submit to your husbands. Church, submit to Christ. Don't try to work things out your own way. You just have to submit. It's not you to make your own heart better. God will make it better. And he will make you holy. So when you're going through stuff, or you've messed up, and it seems like you're being disciplined even, just trust in God. He knows where he's taking you. He knows what he's doing in your life. I've experienced a lot of that recently myself, and I was so Shrew-like to the Lord. I said, no, God, I don't want to do what you're leading me to do. And I could go into specifics, but I won't. And just specific things that I felt he was leading me in. He had to break me. He's still in the process of breaking me, and it was terrible. But I see on the other side, there's a glory there that comes about that is so good. I'm so thankful for that. Yes, Lord, this is going to teach me to love you. This is going to teach me to appreciate you more. This is going to teach me to listen to you. Know that even if what you're asking me to do doesn't make sense, like to throw my hat on the ground or to throw my food away or to call that old man a lady, even if that doesn't make sense, I know you're leading me in this direction for a reason. You're leading me not just because you want me to look stupid, but because you actually want me to trust you. You want me to believe that what you say is right, that you will take care of me, that you will feed me, that you will, what does it say? No one ever hated his own body, but he feeds and cares for it, just as Christ does the church. Christ will give us everything, but we're not listening to him. We don't want it. I just really feel a call for us to just follow God and seek him and love him. And I want to tell you this about blessings. I've talked about suffering. I want to talk about blessings from the Lord. Good things. All of us, even from our childhood, have experienced magical moments. We've experienced good things in the Lord. He's touched us in ways. Even if we didn't know it was him, whether it be a time with a family as a child or a special, ranch out somewhere or just special moments around holidays or anything. There's an author that I follow called John Eldridge. He and another guy who wrote this book I've talked about before called The Sacred Romance. He said there's this thing, this sacred this romance, this mystery that has been calling out to us ever since we were children. And we can choose to pretend it's not there, or sometimes we can get hardened because of the bad things that happen to us. We say that's not real. But God has been calling out to us. And I look at my own life, and he's just been working. And I didn't even realize it actually till this morning, but everything that has happened in my life, everything that had to do with God, was all a part of God's huge story. All a part of God calling, and just even for me, he was calling out my life just to love him, just to be with him. There's this wooing, this relationship that he's bringing us close together. He wants us to know him. Christ has been crucified and rose from the dead. He's expressed his love for you. What will you do? Will you just sit there and say, oh, that's nice, God. Thank you for all that love. I'll just go my own way. I'll go to heaven eventually, but as for knowing you, whatever. That is a huge slap in the face to Jesus. He has shown his love for you without condition. And he wants you to know him back. And I look at the blessings in my life. Everything truly beautiful in your life is just a part of him calling out to you to say, come be with me. Everything good in your life just points to him. It's like there's been times in our lives we know about where he's adorned us with blessing. You can think of just a husband just giving his wife all these jewels and dressing up in fine robes, not just for the heck of it, but just to bless her and say, I really do love you. God is doing that to us. He has blessed us magnificently. And it's not just for the sake of the blessing, it's because he wants us to know that we love him. God, and a lot of times we can get so fixed on the blessing that we forget that God is saying, hello, I love you, I want to be with you. It's like when Abraham, he got his promise, he got his blessing, he got Isaac. He received the first fruits of what God had promised him. But his eyes became so fixed on Isaac and he was enjoying it. It wasn't bad, but his eyes had lost sight of God or could have potentially. It doesn't say explicitly, but so what did God ask Abraham to do? Abraham, sacrifice your son Isaac. Just, go kill him for me. And that is a hard thing to do. But the Lord tested Abraham. If you get rid of everything I've given you, will you still love me? Like, will you obey me? Am I worth more to you than that? There's been things that God has given me in my life, things he's shown me to do, led me to do, even regarding my family. I've been so excited about it and so full of everything that God was blessing me with that I lost sight of him. I set all my hope in his blessing and not in him. And you know what? There became a time where it all got taken away. I felt led to do something else. Like he was testing me. Are you willing to give this up for me? And I was angry as a Shrew, and I've begun to realize over the last few months that my hope was all set in what he could give me and not in him. And as I'm following him now, he's just blessing me more and more and more, saying, I really do love you. Look at your whole life. Everything has been just a part of the larger story of me calling out to you. So I want to say that this is amazing, this love that Jesus is having for us. He's calling us closer to him. No matter whether it was in the blessing or whether it is in the suffering, both instances were Jesus bringing you closer to him. It doesn't matter what is going on, blessing or suffering. All of it is a part of the process of Jesus wooing you closer to him. And I really feel called to say this to us as this church, is Jesus wants a holy church. He wants us to be holy. What does it say? The commandment says, touch no unclean thing. Don't be, what does it say? Don't be bound together with what is unclean. Don't be bound together with sinners. What do the righteous and the unrighteous have in common? And that is true with the Lord. Yes, he loves us. Yes, we're pure and imperfect in him, but he wants to make us that way by maturing us and making us holy. He wants us to be able to love him back. In my life, I don't want a shallow relationship whenever I find someone to marry. I don't want that to be shallow. Yes, if I had so much love, but if she didn't love me back, or was for selfish reasons, or if she was a shrew to me, I wouldn't want that. Even if I really did love her, even if I said I'm going to marry her, but you know what? I would wait until it was time. I would want her to be ready. There's higher levels of love. There's a maturity in love, and Jesus wants that for himself. He's a jealous God. He wants us, but he also wants it for us. If he gave us everything we wanted right now, it wouldn't be good because we're not ready for it. Jesus wants to make you ready for that level of love so you can enjoy it too. He's doing it for you, whether in good or bad, it's all for you. All of creation, God is screaming, I love you. All of human history, God is screaming, I'm doing this all for you. Look at what I've given you. I've given you the earth. He created all of physical creation for us to rule over. He didn't have to. We could have been spiritual beings just like angels, and we would have no earth. But he created the earth just for us, so that we could enjoy it and rule over it, and be like him and know him. So in the blessing or in the suffering, God is calling out to us. And I just want to say, we got to respond. And this is serious. I didn't even really think about preparing this, but we really have to respond to Jesus. We can't just sit there and say no. And for those of us who are in suffering, sometimes there is no reason, or it seems like there's no reason, and maybe we didn't do anything wrong. Like Job, he says he was a perfect and blameless man. And sometimes we don't know. But in 1 Peter, Peter says if you're going through suffering for doing right, the only thing you can do is submit yourself to your faithful Creator. God is like, you guys ever seen the Chronicles of Narnia or read it?
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
Okay. God is a wild God. You don't know what he's going to do. You can't put him in a box. He can do whatever he wants. Even if you are perfect in everything you do, suffering still may come your way. You don't know. There's not a formula, there's not an agenda that you can put on him. And sometimes, and this is serious, and I've only tasted it, but sometimes bad things really do happen to us. Sometimes we really do go through stuff that's not funny. And there seems to be no joy over. Sometimes it is really hard. And sometimes we may not ever know the reason for it. But during those times, are we willing to trust God? Because when we submit ourselves to God, let me tell you something about submitting yourself to someone. When you submit yourself to someone, you entrust yourself to them. You open your heart to them, to be hurt or to be helped. When people get married, and I see this a lot today, that everything can seem okay. People can be together. They say, okay, I'm going to live with you, and everything's going to be all right. But I'm going to protect my heart from the places that I don't want anyone to see. I don't want you to hurt those things. And it seems like they're living together. And that's okay. They're avoiding the bad. But you know what? They're also keeping themselves from the good. When you close your heart off from someone and try to play it safe and protect yourself, you never get to experience the depth of love. And that is what Jesus is saying to us. We can choose to protect ourselves and say, Lord, I don't want any suffering. Lord, I don't want anything bad. I don't want to do this. And so you know what? We don't submit ourselves to God. And he's like, okay, you don't have to go through that, but you're not going to know me. You know, sometimes God doesn't cause or he doesn't cause suffering to come on us. It wasn't originally intended, but it's part of this life. There's something beautiful coming as a result. It's just like in the marriage. When you truly allow yourself to open up and submit, you can experience the fullness of intimacy. And that's the way it is with God. You can choose to submit yourself and follow him on this wild adventure that you don't know what's going to happen. It could be dangerous. It is dangerous. You don't know what he's going to do, what he's going to lead you to do. It could be to go to Iraq and preach underground to all these people. It could be to preach to your family, even scarier. It could be to sell your possessions, or it could be simply to say something to someone that you've been terrified of saying for years. It could be anything, but even though it is hard and scary, when you choose to submit yourself to the Lord, this wild God, anything can happen. But it ends up allowing you to know him more. It ends up allowing you to be intimate with him. Trusting God in uncertainty allows our hearts to be open to him and experience the fullness of his love, or else it'll be a shallow love. It won't be anything worth having. This is what I was saying about Narnia. When they were gathered at the beaver's house, they were talking about Aslan, and I remember one of the girls, one of the children asked, Aslan, who is he? And they say, he's a lion. He's the king of Narnia. Okay, and this is a parallel to the real world. The King Jesus. Okay, and one of the girls says, well, is he safe? And one of the beavers like, is he safe? And then he starts laughing. No, he's incredibly dangerous. But you know what? He's good. And this is what we need to take this to God. God isn't safe. You don't know what he's going to do. What you're going to have to. He allows bad things to happen to us, and that's a very real thing. And it seems like we're lost floating in space with no hope. But he's there.
That's right. And
there's a huge raging question. Is he good or is he not? And just like Aslan, he's dangerous, but he's good. All this, I'm just going to end with two different things, and I'm done. Please forgive me. Even if you're going through suffering, even if you didn't do anything necessarily wrong, it's all part of God's plan. What did I say? In everything, he's showing his love for you and wants you to be closer with him. There is a greater reward to be known. In the meantime, let us continue to submit ourselves to him, hearing him calling out to us. Give him access to our hearts, just trusting him that you really are my husband. You really will take care of me. There is a higher purpose going on in this scheme of history than you realize. Paul says, I consider our light and momentary troubles are not worth comparing to the glory that will be revealed in us. God is doing something bigger than your circumstances might be telling you. So just trust him in it. And in the good or in the bad, just enter into his love and his beauty and glory. What he's calling you to, the sacred romance. A lot of us are looking for life. A lot of us are looking to be fully. We want to be happy. We want to be good. We want to be exploding with everything good. And we look for it by avoiding the bad. But when you trust God and submit to him and he brings you on this adventure, you can experience life. And this is the last verse, why this is true. Because life is only found in Jesus. Jesus gives the fullness of life. In 1 John chapter 5, verse 11, this is amazing. God has given us eternal life, and this life is in his Son. He who has the Son has life. He who does not have the Son of God does not have life. Now this is talking about salvation, but the word Zoe, for life, also refers to the life of God, the fullness of life that you can live in. You can't have that without the Son of God. If you're looking for life and all the blessings and things that God has given you, but not in the Son of God himself, it will be taken away. It will be empty. Find God in the life, or find life in the Son of God, no matter what comes, rain or shine, and it's all for you. It's all for you. He is calling out to us to be with him. And he wants to take care of us and bless us. But we have to trust him. You have to submit. That's all. Thank you, Jesus.
Amen. Amen.